background for when you do you and Chip?
Yeah, I mean, I switch it every time, and that was just an asshole. It was Trump's house. So, Chip just lies and brags. But that's what I'm doing, and I'm filming some stuff today and tomorrow.
Who are you going? I'll tell you before I hit record too. Who are you
Sure.
going up against in the next round for TBS?
Oh, you can even tape it. I don't even know. I think Paul Rodriguez is the guy that Chip's against next. I believe
Paul Rodriguez from.
He's been around for a long time.
He's not Mad About You, is he?
No, that's Paul Reiser.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, he was a good actor, Paul Reiser.
Yeah,
I'm sure he still
great.
is. He was in Aliens. He's great.
Yeah, he was. I saw him one time at the Comedy Cellar, actually, and it took me a second to place it, and I was like, "Oh, I saw him." All right, let me do a little intro for you. I know you don't like the intros too, right. So I won't look at you while I do it.
Okay.
Today I'm talking to comedian, radio personality, author, creative Chip Chipperson, and Pornhub says he's the perfect comedian. And I got to say, I was watching Please Be Offended. I think I was watching it with Jessica Pilot, and it was the clip of you talking about your ex-girlfriend trying to having sex with you with a strap on. And I said, JImNorton deserves more credit. And she goes, I agree. And I go, I don't know for what exactly, but the man deserves more credit. And that was the tipping point when you're doing that joke. I said, he's underappreciated.
Thank you. It's so funny. That special, I hate that special too, because I was so fat and I was wearing those dumb, I didn't want to wear a blazer. And the guy was fitting me for clothes. He said, why don't you try this? And I just did. And I looked at that and I was such a fat pig. I hated that, the look of that special. I hated my delivery. But I shot that in Ohio and I hate my jeans.
Why'd you shoot it in Ohio?
I just love that. I've always had a good relationship with Ohio. Like I've always done very well in Cleveland. It was the Ohio Theater. And it's funny, that bit you're talking about, the strap on, there's been a couple of different ones. There was one there. There was one in, I want to say American Degenerate. They're all true stories about girls trying to fuck me with strap on. And I did it. And I was talking to this trans girl through DM, and she said, she got mad at me for that bit. Like she went back and watching some of your old stuff. And that was really disrespectful to trans people. I'm like, what? Like, what are you talking? I guess because I was saying like how maybe I was freaked out by a plastic pill or whatever the setup was. But it's so funny how people just want to seize onto something and somehow make it like you're not them, which wasn't.
Right. Yeah, that's like that's a jump. That's a jump. Was that the biggest that you were in that special?
No.
You were bigger than
that was. Oh yeah.
Well, not that you were so big, but I'm trying to think of any clips I've seen of you. That would be the biggest that I've seen. Because even in your first late night special, I think you're a little bit bigger in that one. Still very cute.
I was a fatso. I was. You want to see Fat Pig JImNorton? Go to 2005, the HBO half hour. That was the first thing on HBO. That was One Night Stand.
Yeah, sure.
And that was
your biggest.
Yeah. I was awful. They were going to do 4 of them. I think they were going to do 4 of those. They wound up doing 10, 10 half hours. There was a lot of guys that did those, but I was really at my fattest. And in Tough Crowd, when I quit smoking in 2001, and we started we did the 8 episodes of Tough Crowd at the end of 2002, and I had gotten really fat, and I was arguing with Nick DiPaolo about something, and he goes, "Hey, you fat fuck," and that's how I knew like I'm fat. Like when that's an argument point for people who are mad at you, I'm like, I'm gonna lose weight.
Right. What do you think? What were you using food just as a coping mechanism? Or were you just not thinking about being healthy?
It was when you quit smoking, you just you eat more. I mean, I was literally just eating a lot, not exercising, and I'm addictive. So anything that feels good, and I love shoving food in my face. I love it.
Me too. I was reading the article for The Fix when you were talking about doing a sex detox. Was that actually the last time you ended up getting and not paying for sex workers as part of the detox? Did you end up?
When was that?
I think it was 2013.
No, I paid after that too. But I wound up, it's funny. I would go through these periodically where I would just stop doing it. And I haven't seen somebody in that line of work in quite a while. Yeah. I don't judge it. I still think it should be totally legal. I have no issue with it whatsoever. But there were certain things that I was like, like, do I know 100% that this person is cool with it? And it just started to bother me that I couldn't guarantee that I knew where that person was coming from. So it was just a personal choice.
I had this friend, my friend Mike, he used to do comedy. He doesn't anymore. He's really funny, but he's like OCD about germs, and he used to get sex workers, and he wanted the sex workers to wash their hands before they had sex, but he felt embarrassed asking them to wash their hands because he didn't want them to think he was asking because they were a sex worker.
Sure.
So instead of asking them to wash their hands, he told them he had a fetish for wearing gloves. So he would ask the women to wear gloves. He'd be like, that's what turns me on, instead of asking them to just wash their hands. And so he's like, I got a latex thing.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
Well, for me, it was not even the germs. It was more like I wanted to make sure that they were okay doing it. Like,
totally.
Like, how do I know? Like, I always thought that I would know.
Oh, 100%.
But then I'm like, how do I know?
Totally.
And it just kind of bothered me after a while.
Well,
I just couldn't rectify it.
And also when people are commenting on when you put out the article about those in time.com, then one of the things that woman wrote back, she was like, they don't know. And when people keep coming at you with that, then of course that's going to get in your head. Like, because I actually dated a sex worker for a little bit.
Oh, me too.
Yeah. It was really interesting. I watched her mental health actually kind of deteriorate. So I went into the relationship being 100% for it. I still am, but it was, and I definitely attribute it to the business she was in. I don't know how she could have stayed balanced doing that all the time.
Yeah, and it's funny, that article, I there was somebody who wrote a rebuttal to that.
Yeah,
that
she
was
sure
harsh.
did. It was harsh. It was harsh.
But I think I retweeted it. I was like, good, read
You
both. See how you feel. I saw her on an elevator, and she actually was like, hey, I was way too hard on you. I shouldn't have been so harsh on you. I remember I talked to that woman when I bumped, but I was like, yeah, it was fine.
You saw her in an where were you guys?
Sirius XM.
Oh my God.
But she was very nice, and it was like, that's fair. I mean, I put it out there, so if somebody has a problem with it, it's fair. And there were certain points I hadn't thought of. So you can't be afraid when you say something that the people are going to, like, just automatically, if they don't agree with you, well, all right, well, fine, let me think about what you said. And that type of stuff actually did make me think. And it wasn't that they beat me out of it. I just made a decision. And I started only seeing people who I really knew. Like, there were still sex workers I saw, but they're people I've known for years, or that I knew their situation. Like, and I understood why they were doing, it wasn't just this random, gee, do they want to be doing this thing? But yeah, sometimes the criticism, if it's well worded, I mean, don't be afraid of it. Sometimes it's right.
She said she was too hard on you?
I believe so. Yeah. She was like, maybe because it was just we were on the elevator, and I forget her exact words.
And was it just the two of you?
I don't remember, but I didn't know who she was. She approached me.
She recognized you.
Oh yeah. I didn't approach her.
That was big of her then. That was big of her, because if she saw that you didn't recognize her, she could have just sat there like, da-da-da.
Yeah. Or sometimes, when you read something or you see a snippet of a person, and we've all done it, you automatically, that's who that person is. But then when you talk to them for a second, you're like, oh yeah, there's a whole complete person around that. It's,
Totally. I was looking at the interview, one of the ones you did with Rogan, where you're talking about having 10 sexual partners before fourth grade.
Fourth grade, yeah.
Did your parents have any idea you were sexually active?
I don't know. I don't know. I mean, how could they? I remember, like, the first pornographic pictures I ever found were, I still remember, it was high gloss. It was a threesome, 2 guys and a girl.
It was high gloss.
It was high gloss.
That's
it was like one of those
funny thing to remember.
$10 like magazines. This back in 1974.
Right, fancy.
Or 73. And they were, the guy had mutton chops, and he was hanging his dick in the girl's face. And it was like that picture. And I'll never forget his mutton chop. Like, if he walked in the room right now, I would recognize him.
Wow. And that's like when it wasn't ironic. That was like for real mutton chops.
Oh yeah, that was the style. I mean, that was like literally 73. You probably just come from a Cretans concert,
right?
And there was 2 guys and the girl, and I hid the magazine under my dad's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "Nothing." I was putting it in my drawer, but then the magazine disappeared later, and I didn't realize my dad had probably went and looked and found it.
How old were you?
I must have been 6 at the oldest.
Woo!
But yeah, I was very sexually active then. I was blowing all my friends. It was a couple of girls I got involved with too, but they scared me because the pussy scared me. I didn't know what it was. It was missing something.
Totally.
But, yeah, it was a lot of it was with this bully who I was scared of. I remember there was this bully who I was scared of, and he was the one I remember first. And
you
then
feel angry at him now? Like, now that
no,
you have so much, you don't?
No, he was a year older than me. He was, it's funny. Dr. Drew told me I was sexually abused. I'm like, no, I wasn't. but
Mm.
I just don't know.
It's
Exactly.
interesting when other people tell people that they were sexually abused, because it's a tricky line when someone else is saying. I said that once to someone, and I regretted it for the rest of my life. It's my former stepmom, and a friend of mine asked how she lost her virginity, and well, this is a different case because it was incest, and she said she had sex with her dad, and I went, "You were raped." And she hated me for the rest of my life. She hated me. And I think it was because I flipped that switch in her head, realizing it. Because when you deliver that, which is totally different from him saying that
Yes.
100%, but when you deliver that info to someone, it can be very jarring to tell someone that they were sexually abused, because you might be making that aha moment, and then they're going to all those things are going to click in, and then they might have to deal with that in a whole different way.
Yes, and I don't. My memories are just so foggy of it. I remember being very scared of him.
Mm.
And I do remember, and I do the joke in my act, but it's a totally true story. Was that there was another kid who was a year older, who obviously had trauma in his family, and I would always, me and him would trade blowjobs, and I remember he walked in on me blowing the bully,
Uh-oh.
and they're calling me a faggot. Like I forgot
Right.
that I got called that. Like long
Right.
before you could go and tell your parents.
Mm.
This was in the early to mid '70s when that word got thrown around. And again, I have nothing against people using that word, but I got
Mm.
called it, fairly regularly because the word got out.
Right.
Um, and I remember we were fighting about something, and he was following me home, and he spit at me
Mm.
in my house, and my parents were there. And I think he called me a faggot then too. I remember. I just have this vague memory of that
Mm.
being so humiliating. Them hearing somebody say that to me. I don't
Right.
remember exactly what it was, but I was so embarrassed at having gotten caught. And it was crazy because like I used to blow him too. So it was like,
Sure.
what am I fucking
Right.
doing? Being embarrassed. The irony of you
Right.
saying that
Did
was
your parents
crazy.
talk to you about sex? Like, what was
I,
their birds and the bees conversation
Oh,
like to
the
little you?
obligatory awful talk. My dad's a good guy, but he tried to. I remember one time in fourth grade, I had a crush on this girl, or fifth grade, and I wanted to kiss her, and I didn't
Mm.
know how to kiss her. So I asked my dad, "How do I kiss a girl?" And he goes, "Ask her if you can smell her breath." Which
Ah!
really, I know, it's like something Ted Bundy would
Ah!
tell you. Ask her if you can
Ah!
smell her breath. I was like, oh,
Ah!
that's a terrible bit of advice. It
Whoa!
was
Good
awful.
God!
That
Ay.
was shitty advice.
I watched Tiger King too, and when you articulated an article that you wrote about it, that it is a great equalizer. I hadn't thought of it like that, but that's what I feel when I watch true crime, where I'll feel the sense of like, oh, thank God I'm not the person killing or the person getting killed. You watch true crime too?
Do you mean true crime as in documentaries or a show
Mm-hmm.
called True Crime? Yeah, I used to. Excuse me. I don't really anymore. Because I've seen most of what you can see on Ted Bundy
Yep.
and Edmund Kemper and all these guys.
Right.
And I just began to realize that it's more than just curiosity. We get something out of
Mm.
it. We get a
Yes,
thriller, which by
I
the way is
know.
why I don't care when people are upset at jokes. I don't care for that. Go fuck yourself. The whole country lined up to watch a clown kill children, and you're
Right.
mad that somebody does a joke about something.
Right.
Nobody's mad at the fucking documentary makers for glorifying a guy who
Sure.
smothered a 12-year-old after he raped her. And that is what
Right.
Ted Bundy did. But
Right.
he's considered this good looking guy. And oh, he was brilliant. And then people play him in movies. And
Right.
fuck out of here. I don't want to hear that they're telling a story. They are glorifying the
They are
guy.
glorifying.
And we all know it.
100%. Yeah.
I'm okay with that. But just don't tell me I can't do certain jokes.
Right. That they are glorifying. I mean, I know I can feel they're glorifying it because I feel myself in wanting entertainment value from true crime stories. Because I'll
Yes.
watch them sometime, and there was one I watched and I got bored, and I thought, what the fuck? Like, I have the audacity to get bored because I'm watching someone get murdered, but it like wasn't like a twist.
Yes.
Like, I was like, oh, like there's no creepy uncle or anything, and so I didn't. I was like, skip this one. I'm fast forwarding through someone's murder because I'm like,
Yeah.
this does nothing for me. I'm totally, I'm embarrassed by this.
Yeah. Yeah. So I kind of got into a point where like I'm so sick of these guys and
Yeah.
they're never talked about like they're garbage people. Like again, the obligatory scolding is given,
Sure.
but the garbage, the broken garbage that these people are. And if people want to go out and don't joke about that. How about this? If you want to get something done, how about you target the media who glorifies people by showing their manifestos? Like, how about if people refused refused to pay $1 to any company that prints a manifesto. Newspapers would stop doing that. All started with Ted Kaczynski, which there was a reason to print it because they were trying to identify him. But now, you know, the New York Post. But if people really, all this fucking fake anger and trying to get things done, you want to stop that type of shit.
Right.
You go to the source and you say, any paper that prints a manifesto, we will never purchase again, and then don't buy it. And then you watch them stop doing it. Is there
a particular joke where you've gotten the most pushback on?
You know, not really. I think with me, people realize I've been doing the type of humor I'm doing it for 30 years, and I'm going to keep doing it. It's, you know, when the radio show I was on for a decade and more before we got canceled the first time, it is what it is. That's the type of humor I do. And I hate when people think that humor shouldn't exist. Like there should be dark movies but not dark comedy. And the worst part is when you do a joke and people are like, well, if no one laughs, it's not funny. Well, when a horror movie sucks, no one accuses it of not being a horror movie. Like, you don't do a bad horror movie and people go, oh my God, that was not a good horror movie. Therefore,
there should be no more.
They should be no more. And he means it. They're like, oh boy, that movie sucked.
Move along. So, when they don't like your comedy, when someone doesn't like a comedy thing, they hate you. They're like, I fucking hate that guy. And you're like, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, it's a bit much. But the most joke, it's funny. I guess it's been a while. I haven't been on Twitter. I literally will post once in a while, but I stopped checking comments and at mentions because it was becoming too, like, it wasn't even particularly negative. It was more like, how many accolades, compulsive. How much do I need? Like, how much fucking interaction and obsessive.
I get that.
Even when it's good, it's dangerous.
I get that. Yeah, I'm just like refresh. Like, I got blocked out of my Instagrams, and then all of a sudden I was on Facebook. So you know, if you're an addicty person, and I am too, there's a switch when all of a sudden it's like you don't feel like, I'll feel fixated on it. Do you have ADHD or ADD?
I probably have some combination of that. I've never been diagnosed, but ADD definitely, it's very hard for me to focus. Or maybe ADHD.
Do you get fixated on stuff?
Sometimes, yeah. You know, but a lot of it is I don't sleep, so I'm always tired. So my mind is kind of fucking foggy and loopy, and I'm always all over the place. I can never really think.
You don't sleep, even with all the exercise you've been doing?
No. It's funny. I just worked out today. I can't keep my eyes open because I have apnea, so I'm always waking up. It sucks.
Do you have to have a sleep apnea machine?
I can't use it. I'm too claustrophobic. I got to get my sinuses surgically fixed, and then I can maybe try to use it. It's a nightmare.
When was your first sexual experience with a woman that you can remember?
Janice. It was Janice in the woods, and I was kneeling behind her, and I have an ass fetish, and I know where it comes from. It comes from Janice standing in the woods, and I put my face against her ass.
Wow, as one of your first sexual experiences.
With a woman, yeah.
With a woman,
and I mean, a girl. I think I was I want to say I was in 3rd grade and she was in 4th or 5th, and she was a year or two. And I think her name was Janice. I mean, it was just going back a ways. And I remember the feeling because it was the temperature difference. Like, her ass cheek was cool, and I remember how good it felt against my face, her cool ass cheek, and I loved it. I loved her butt in my face. And I remember another girl who was, again, a year older than me. I was maybe in 1st or 2nd grade, and I was sitting in this.
So young. That's such a baby. I mean, that's so young. Like,
but I remember negotiating with her. Like, I was friends with her and her brother, and
you'd been doing this suck since way back at that point. So negotiating probably felt pretty natural.
Yeah, you give me 20 sucks, I'll give you 20 sucks. Right. That's exactly it. It's funny. I never really put it into a context. Like, why did I like negotiating and paying for sex? Because I guess that's the way I learned it. Like, you always are giving and taking and giving and taking.
I'm a big negotiator too, always. Someone actually said that's an addicty thing, that everything's got to be an exchange, which I don't know how it connects to being addicty, but even if I'm in a relationship, I'll go, hey, I'll do this if you do that, or if you listen to this, like, I'm always doing that. But so you negotiated another sexual experience?
I think part of it is also absolutely zero self-worth and thinking I don't deserve this.
Totally.
So you must want something for it.
Right.
Let's just cut to the chase and give you what you want.
Right.
Yeah, I asked her, like I was sitting in this wooded area and there were sticker bushes next to me. And I remember she had a great ass. And I remember going, well, you can sit on my lap or you could sit on the sticker bushes. And she sat on the sticker bushes, which really ruined my self-esteem.
Yeah. What the
Like
fuck?
second grade. I
Right.
was like, I know this is fucked up.
Like,
She
yeah.
doesn't
Like,
like me.
yeah. What the fuck? But did you
Yeah.
still hook up with her?
No. It was literally, I wouldn't have done anything. I just
Right.
wanted to feel the pressure of
Feel the
her
butt.
hining on my
Yeah.
lap.
I used to always introduce butt stuff when I was in relationships, and that would be like the thing that I felt set me apart as a lover. Like I'd be like, I'll go to butt stuff right away, but
Yeah.
then I was with a couple people back to back. They were like, you go to butt. They didn't like the butt stuff, and then that made me like shrivel away sexually. I'm not in my sexual prime anymore. Are you in your
No.
sexual prime now, or when were you
No,
at like
I'm
the height?
52, man. I'm just like fucking finished. I mean, mentally, I'm still there. My height, it's hard to say because it's always been so like I never knew what it meant. Like
Sure.
I never knew I just assumed that sex was how people relate to each other. It's
I
funny as we're
totally get
talking.
that. I totally get that.
Yeah,
I agree. I 100%. I've totally thought that that's how you like related with people in that. Yeah, I get that.
her brother used to sit on my face, not with his ass,
Mm,
but he used to piss his pants a lot, and I would
huh.
like the smell. So I would lay there, and he would just straddle me, and I would smell it through his pants. And
So
I did that with her
interesting.
too. With her too, it was her too, and I can remember doing that behind the bushes when I lived in Edison, New Jersey. And again, I left that place Halloween of fourth grade. So
Oh
anything that
my
occurred
God.
there occurred before Halloween of fourth grade. That's how I have
Mm.
a distinctive couple of years because I remember when I left and I moved to North Brunswick. But yeah, her and her brother, I remember behind the shrubs in front of my house, I would get them to straddle my face because they both wet their pants. Fucking, fucking psychotic.
You're a good negotiator, though. I mean, you would have been a good lawyer because I was reading that you're thinking of becoming a lawyer for a brief period of time. I mean,
Yeah.
you've been training for your whole life, and then
Yeah, for plea deals. Yeah, I've always I've always been willing to to plea out, like whatever it takes to get this hiney on my face.
right.
But it was really weird. I'm a really weird submissive. Like I've come to
Mm,
realize that too. Like I'm not into necessarily dominating people. Like I'm just not good at it. Like
hmm.
I always like them
Oh,
to.
and that's key. If someone's gonna be dominating, it has to be convincing. They got to be because I knew this old roommate of mine. He was a top, and he said I'm open to being submissive. He's like, but I need the top that's topping me to be convincing, like they're into it.
Yes, it can't be. It's almost like if a girl was gonna, and I'm not really necessarily gonna be spanked, but whatever. But let's just
Right.
use that. If a girl's gonna do that, I couldn't just sit there with her in bed and she'll go, "Okay, now do you want me to spank you or are you a
No,
bed?" It
no.
has to just be organic.
I couldn't agree more. That's the trick if you're in a relationship and the person's not as kinky as you, because then you feel like I've definitely felt before if they're not as kinky and it's not organically coming, I don't want them to be doing it because they think that's what I want. And then I feel like a
Yes,
fucking weirdo.
yes,
Really hard. It makes relationships really, really hard because sometimes the people you connect with the most sexually aren't the ones that are best for you emotionally.
and I think that's why porn. That is, and I think I'm not anti-porn at all, but I think that if the overuse of porn can be damaging, and you got to be careful of it because
Right.
needing something like that is almost like needing it to be a porn script, like because in
Right.
porn that's where their world is and it's real and it's natural and you watch that, you think that's how people think, and then when somebody goes, well, do you want me to spank you, that's breaking the illusion.
Right.
When it's probably actually a healthy way to be, like a couple that can just go, do you want me to tie you up? Oh, you didn't do your homework. I
Right.
mean,
Right.
just that they can enjoy that is probably fucking healthier than
Right.
me needing my set up my requirements.
Oh, totally. I'm the same as you, though. I'll be like, well, no, it's kind of like, how sometimes you'll hear men criticize women when the women say, I'm mad at you, but they're not like saying why. And it's like, well, I can't
Right.
read your mind.
Yeah.
I've done that before, I guess, with sexual situations where I'm like, well, if you don't want to do this, and I'm not going to bring it up, but you didn't. I'm like getting annoyed. They can't read my mind that I want some like
Yes.
weird fucking like, just one time, you might get a kick out of this. My girlfriend now, when we first started talking, I was talking about looking at porn. She goes, well, send me what you're watching. And I went, well, you got to be more specific. I was like, I can't send you what I'm watching right
Yeah.
now because I've gone down the rabbit hole of porn now. I'm so far past even incest, age play. I was like, I can't just send you what I can't. I think I was watching cuckolding stepson and mom rape
This
or porn,
a subcategory. Yeah.
yeah. And I was like, I can't just if I just send this to you cold right now, I can't put myself out there like that. You know, like I'd be like, I would be too. Who do you think was the top in Joe Exotic's relationship? You think Joe was, or do you think it was his lovers?
Or the other guy with missing, I think the guy missing teeth probably, but I'm not 100% sure. I don't know, because Joe is such a weird, flaky guy, but something tells me that he was more of a bottom.
Really?
Yeah, because the other guy was so kind of quiet, and he didn't look that great. So then again, neither did Joe.
Right.
But it would just seem like the thing that Joe might like is that guy would probably just top him, because that guy seemed like he wound up marrying a woman. So maybe he was more straight and would prefer to fuck than be fucked. Again, it's just a guess. I would have no idea, but I would guess that the other guy.
I thought that Joe was the top because when he got married, those two were like the wives.
Oh, I forgot he got married to two
Yeah.
people. Yeah, you're
married.
right.
But then if the guy did end up being with a woman, then that does seem like he would be a little bit more toppy.
No, I forgot they got married. You're right. Now, I don't know. Maybe they switch.
Maybe they switch. Have you ever had sex in feeling like you were Chip Chipperson? Have you ever like taken him into the bedroom with you, or do you always leave? Do you leave him?
No, one girlfriend who was very. She would point out things about Chip, and I really developed him a lot when I was with her, because she hated it so much. But she sucked Chip's dick once. It's a goof. You know what I mean? Chip was like pretending he bombed at a show. Like, I fucking bombed. They hated me. And then she sucked his dick because she felt bad. They couldn't stay hard.
Oh my God. Too bad you can't. That'd probably be too much to have as a video, but that would be a funny. that would be, put that on the TBS show. Be like, whoa.
Yeah, the TBS show it's so funny, man. They asked me to do it, and again, I don't like doing competitions. And again, I just don't like them. The pressure, I don't do well in them. So I told them I'll do this Chip. I never thought they'd go for it, but hey, look, there's a pandemic. We're not doing gigs.
Totally.
And I'm like, it'll make me do some videos, and all of a sudden they finally agreed to it, and it's so silly and so fucking ridiculous that the fans are responding to it, because comedy videos from home are hard. Like, we've seen a lot of good comedy films and a lot of great stand-up comedy, but it's so hard to just do comedy. They're always cheesy, and Chip kind of embraces that and is just awful. So when you start at the point of going, this is awful. And fuck you if you don't like it. Like, there's something about that people, it's freeing. They're like, yeah, let's just enjoy the shit that this is.
Totally. I hope Chip wins the whole thing.
Oh, me too. I don't think you will, though. I think between us, I think that I would love to get one or two more rounds.
Yeah.
I don't know if I will, because again, you're against legit comedians.
Sure.
But they're also not using their great stand-up, or they can only do so much too. Chip can do anything. And it's okay if it sucks. This one take and done. Like, it doesn't have to be masterful.
I'm doing it not as Chip, I would think would be, because I mean, also, like, if you're doing it as yourself, having your ego in it for a comedy competition that's like pretty fucking that. I hope Chip and Godfrey get to the finals. That'd be an interesting combo if Chip and Godfrey go against each other.
You know what it is too. The thing about Chip, that's what made me laugh, is I knew so many. What's that? Or
Chip or Carmen Esposito would be an interesting. Chip against a lot of people would be very interesting.
And I wouldn't take any of it seriously, because to me, it's like, the funny thing to me is that these comedians have to deal with this fucking asshole claiming victory, telling them that pieces of garbage, like, not even personally, just saying that as a general rule, all the comedians are garbage. It's just so much fun it's so freeing to not care what happens, because I really don't. I want to win it because it's fun and it's money, but it's not going to make me or break me. It's just, it's a very silly project. And the fans are kind of lining up behind it because it's so ludicrous.
Yes. It's so funny what ends up getting a response out of people.
Yeah, like Natasha Leggero. I didn't watch all the videos. I thought Megan Gailey's video was funny. I thought, and I'm not just being like polite. Like, I really thought it was a good video. I thought Natasha Leggero's was really good. Preacher Lawson's I thought was really good.
He does a lot of online stuff, so he's been ready for that. He's been like doing online videos since he did America's Got Talent too.
Yeah, and that's a guy who, again, Chip is just such nonsense. But Chip has a fan base, so maybe that would help. But I wouldn't expect Chip to go to the finals and beat like a legit, where the whole country is voting only on two people.
Oh my God. Could you imagine? And then Chip's like the face of TBS, and they're like, now we're connected to this guy for, I was reading something where it said, so you've been seeing your therapist for, how long have you been seeing your therapist? It seemed like a while from the interview that I read.
This guy, I mean, I've been
Oh, you see a
going
guy
to them.
therapist?
Yeah. I've been going to them. I normally only went to women. But this one I've been seeing for about 2.5 years, but I've been seeing therapists in general for a long time.
It's interesting you usually go to women because for therapists, for some reason, I usually go to women, but there was a long time where I said I always wanted to go to men. And I think it was because even with like a manager or an agent, I always wanted men. I guess it's internalized sexism. I said, I don't want another woman nagging at me. But now I would totally go to a man or a woman. It wouldn't be such a big deal to me. You've been seeing this guy.
I was just more honest with them. I was more open with women. Like I'm less worried about crying in front of a woman than I am a guy.
Why is that?
I don't know. Is this sexual stuff? Talking about that in front of a man?
Yeah.
It's just fucking. I don't like it.
Yeah, it's like I'd want to know. Yeah, actually, if it was a man, I think I'd be uncomfortable with the sexual. I thought I would be more uncomfortable with a woman, but if it was a man, I think I would want to know that he didn't feel power over me, and then I'd be like, okay, now I can tell you whatever. Like if he crawled around a little bit, then I'd be like, okay, now I can divulge. I can divulge my secrets. What originally pushed you into going in to see the therapist? Was there like a snapping point?
Yeah, I mean, I can't even think of the first one I went to for years. Just a depression and self-esteem, self-hatred, suicidal thoughts, all that stuff. The tapes that just don't stop playing.
Do you take pills for the depression?
The only thing I've allowed him to put me on is what is it called? Buspirone, which is an extremely light. It doesn't make you fucked up. Doesn't put that spittle in the corner of your mouth that people get. I'm feeling great, and they get that fucking dry mouth.
That's the extreme.
That's the extreme.
That's the extreme. Is it Wellbutrin? Is that what the?
No, I don't think it's Wellbutrin. It might work under the same principle, but it doesn't fuck with your dick. Like I was scared of my dick getting it's disastrous enough, to try to just focus on a human being in front of me. I don't need medication fucking hammering me from the inside. So very mild, and I don't even take it as often. It just it takes you from an 8 to a 6 when you feel crazy. That's all. Very light.
I always forget to take my antidepressants. That's not good for us to do though. Like it's supposed to like really, because I never take it at the same time. I always lose it, and then I'm so happy for you that you don't get your period, because that makes you go fucking crazy town with the antidepressants.
Oh God. Yeah. The hormones.
Oh my God. Every time before I get my period, I have existential crisis, suicidal ideation. I like all kinds of crazy stuff. And then I get my period. So I'm happy that you don't.
Yeah, me
Although
too.
it'd be interesting to see what you would be like when you got it.
Yes, and more interesting to see what J.K. Rowling said about it.
Oh my God! Did you read all of what she was saying?
I read a little bit of it, but I it didn't matter to me. Like I know she's a wonderful author, but I don't care what the lady who made up Harry Potter thinks about anything.
Right.
I don't give a fuck what the lady who made the Wizard book thinks.
Right. Yeah, it
means nothing to me.
Yeah, it is. I mean, we always put people on these platforms where it's like, all right, you're already public. What do you think about all this stuff? It was just also it's such a bizarre timing to be reading about Corona. J.K. Rowling is transphobic. Corona. Everybody's dying. She's transphobic.
Yeah, I don't believe she's transphobic. Again, from what I read, she was. I never understood anything that I thought was hateful. Right. I think that what happens is, people are so crazy now that if you disagree with one iota of the mission statement, you're an enemy. Like you can believe in trans rights, you can believe in everything that is positive about being trans, but if there's one thing that the trans lobby or trans activists say, and you don't go along with the furthest in the extreme on either side, you're now an enemy. It's not just anything. Why
is that? Is it just easier for people to all of a sudden like hate? I mean, I understand hating being easier. I get that, but I don't know what that purpose it serves for people to do that so quick.
Couple of reasons my opinion is that because I don't think Americans are very honest. And I think that our own motives, we like to punish. Like, it's like, we like the idea. It's like in Saudi Arabia, that chop square when they watch a beheading.
Mm-hmm. What's it called?
A chop square, I think it's where they'll do public beheadings. And we don't
and it has a
acknowledge
cute little name like Chop
Chop Square. Yeah. It's adorable.
Fuck. Yeah.
Tourist trap.
Chop.
But we don't like to acknowledge the fact that we enjoy punishing.
Right.
So what we do is we hide behind these shields of real positive ideas. Well, you said the wrong thing. But if we acknowledge the fact that we like to punish and it feels good, it's that thing where we want to club somebody with a fucking head. So if we acknowledge that about ourselves, we might not be as quick to do it. But since we don't acknowledge it, we act like the cause is the reason we're doing it.
Right.
And I also think people are afraid of the debate because deep down, they don't have as much faith in their point as they pretend to. They're afraid of, and I don't mean a yelling thing, but they're just afraid of an alternate opinion being taken more seriously than theirs, or being more right than theirs, or them not being equipped mentally to combat an alternate opinion.
Right.
So it's bullshit. It's all nonsense. If somebody is transphobic, like they accuse me of being transphobic because of some Caitlyn Jenner joke I did. It was some dumb joke on Twitter. And it's like, do you not know it's transphobic? Joking about something, do you really fucking think that's transphobic? Like,
right.
But again, it's people, it's weaponized caring. It's weaponized altruism. It's taking the idea of caring and turning it into a weapon.
Right.
Which
right. I care more than you. I care about these people more than you do, and you don't have this info that I have about these people. That's so true.
And they stand behind the cause is their shield, like their righteous shield. And again, this is all causes or all these what's happening. And they club you over the head because they like to club you, but they'll never be honest enough to say, fuck, it feels good. Why do I need to go after something? Because there's people who are just genuinely shitty and awful and should be criticized. Yeah, of course. There's people that say things on social media that are repulsive about trans. But if people were really serious about whether it's homophobia, transphobia, all these things, then they would be targeting the source of it.
Right.
Which is organized religion. And Christopher Hitchens said that nobody has put out more true homophobia or more true sexual shaming than any and all organized religions. It doesn't matter which one you pick, Islam, Catholicism, Judaism, they all do it. And if you really, really want to get to the fucking root of it, that's where it comes from. So some stupid author or she's got a platform, gives a fuck. She's not important. She made a man with a wizard hat.
Which is pretty fucking gay.
Good for her.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, look, she's a great author. Great. But her opinions on social matters have zero influence on me. And not just because I'm older, because Robert De Niro was one of my idols. Right. I love him. His opinions on social matters have zero influence on me. I don't give a fuck. Right.
I did a transphobic thing. I remember when I first saw a trans person, I went to a talk. I said, I'm going to ask if they have a penis or a vagina. I remember. And that was me I was pretty, try to be pretty open-minded. But I went and I was going to do that. And I was mad that I didn't ask it. And I'm so glad that I didn't. But we all the place that we start at obviously that's like a different lifetime feeling like. But I was going to do that. And if I had done it, I would have wanted to be held accountable later on. I was going to ask the trans man about his genitals. I remember that.
I understand why that's an inappropriate thing because it's invasive and it's rude, but I don't think it's transphobic because I don't think it comes from a place of hatred or it doesn't come from a place of disapproval.
It was entitlement though, because it wasn't like a talk about that. They were given a talk about being like a teacher or something, and I knew they were trans. So it was kind of like, and I went down there, I was like, I'm going to ask. And then they brought up in the talk, they said, some people ask me about my genitals in public settings and it's just so embarrassing for me. And I just kind of slinked to the back and was like,
Yeah, and people have different, you never ask, and I learned that many, many years ago. You don't ask a trans person what they call bottom surgery. You don't ask about bottom surgery. Right. And I get why that's inappropriate and why it's rude and invasive, because if you just walked up to any person and asked about their genitals, it's a weird question.
If you ask, weird.
Yeah, you walk up to any woman and go, hey, by the way, did your clit big or small? Right. It's a bizarre question.
Right.
And it's rude. So I get why they don't like that. But a lot of times the place it's coming from is because as a culture, I think we're trying to come to terms with what is this? Sure. We're trying to figure it out. Like, it's almost like, I remember when I was a kid, and again, I had so many homosexual experiences, but I remember asking a woman in Bradley's, she was an employee, I was a Village People fan. I'm like, what do gay people do in bed? It was such a weird question to ask a stranger. But I'm like,
you just looked at her and she's like, she's got the answers.
She was an adult. And I was like 12 or 9. And
excuse me.
It's so much of it is curiosity that is not based in anger. And again, rudeness aside, it is rude. so you shouldn't ask it because
Right.
again, it's a person going about their day,
Off-putting.
talking
Right.
about their dick or their pussy.
Right.
But I don't know how do we make it more comfortable, because people, the more they understand about it, the less foreign it is, and
Absolutely.
the less of this, you're an other I've known enough trans people in my life where it's like they're the same as everybody else to me.
Sure.
Like there's some that I like, and I've had great interactions and relationships, and some that are difficult. I remember I talked about this very recently. I was on a train with a couple of UFC fighters, and and my co-host Matt Serra was telling one of them, like, yeah, he likes trans girls, and the guy's like, so they have dicks. Like, but he wasn't being an asshole.
Right.
He literally didn't understand what it meant.
Figure it out.
Yeah. And he says, they have dicks. And I'm like, well, yeah. And he's like, oh, all right.
Right.
Okay, cool. Like there was I guess it's all in how you deliver the information too.
Absolutely.
It's not like, yeah,
but it right,
yes,
right.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Yes, they do.
The girls that did, yes, they do. But there was no judgment when he went, no, all right. He wanted to know something.
Right.
But again, asking a specific person, I do understand why that's
right. You're a good writer. I was reading the stuff that you had. I mean, is that from you writing and then working with like you put things together very professional writery? I don't know a better word for it, but I mean, this is kind of a stupid question, but like, how do you know how to do all that? Like, even like just like the whole it's like well thought out essays.
Thank you. Because the first place I ever got laughs was writing. Like I remember as a kid writing stories when I was very, very young, and being very sheepish, like, oh, I hope the teacher doesn't read it, but I really wanted her to fucking read it.
So were you a good student?
No, it's terrible. But I mean, anything that got me laughs, I was decent. But the writing, what I try to do when I write something, because I understand you can never be afraid of the echo chamber. When you get into an echo chamber, that's to me when people become bores,
right?
And they become tedious and fucking predictable and shut up. We heard you. So what you try to do,
I'd like to get a bobblehead of you doing that. Shut up, I heard you. So I just wave it.
It's because it's just an echo chamber, douchebag. Just talk to your fucking friends that think exactly the same. You fucking bore.
Right, kill yourself.
But I try to close exits. Like I never mind a debate. Like I don't like an argument at this point because it's too exhausting, and I don't need to be self-righteous, angry man.
Right.
Whenever I'm writing something, you always try to figure out why is somebody coming for you, or why are they coming for whether or Trevor Noah or when it was Charlie Hebdo or whatever the things are. What is it that they're doing? And I try to close the exits that people use to combat what you're saying. It's almost like, because it's like when it comes to everyone coming after you, it's like a beehive. It's a hornet's nest.
Right.
So what you try to do is just slowly seal off the places they can fly in. So now there's one focal point. It doesn't always work. And there's inevitably people that misread what you say or don't give a shit about the context. But I try to make as airtight an argument as I can to make my point and then let people come to their own conclusion. Like, I'm not going to change anybody's opinion.
You might.
Maybe. But my job isn't to do that. It's only to say, this is my opinion and this is why.
Right.
Do what you want with it.
Right. Absolutely. Did you just know that instinctively how to write?
I know what works, what I respond to. So I don't respond to being told what to do. Like, Richard Pryor.
Or condescendingness. I hate condescendingness. It makes me so fucking, like, I just hate it so much. It is so hard for me to get over if someone is condescending to me, because sometimes someone's condescending and they're not totally a condescending person, but I demonize them. I hate them. Someone says them, I'm like, fuck that guy. I hate condescending.
It drives me crazy.
I don't need
I don't need to be spoken to by the intellectual. Believe me, I get it. Right?
Totally. I fucking totally.
I get it. I just don't agree.
Right.
You've been heard.
Right.
I don't agree.
Right.
People
That's
like
the right way to handle that. Not being like, I hope they fucking eat shit and die. Blah 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 blah.
Yeah. Well, as a comedian, can I get some water real quick? I'm dying of thirst.
Of course. Sorry. And then I'll wrap it up. I know you got to go.
That's right. doing stand-up, it's funny. I never think when I bomb, I never come off and go, they didn't get me. Like, they got me. They just rejected it.
Yeah.
And they didn't like it. But Richard Pryor, I always loved. He was the guy who made me want to be a stand-up. And when he would do characters, it was the first time I ever heard race discussed. And the way he would talk about white people and black people, I never felt like I was being scolded. I never, because the characters he would do true to who they were. So I never felt like this man is trying to make me feel bad. Sure. I just laughed and listened to the information he gave me. And I came to the conclusion like, wow, that's a fucking bad situation. Like it made me more aware of race and hey, that black people are being treated shitty. Like it's the first time I knew of it was listening to him talk, but it was never bludgeoning. He gave me information and I came to my own conclusion. So that I always think that that's the way to do it. But the arrogance and the ego wants me and wants all of us to have that one moment where everybody goes, aha.
Absolutely.
You're right.
Right. You knew. You got it more than everybody else. Yeah, absolutely.
And that moment never comes. So it's the constant search for that moment that people are so fucking angry. And it's also a lack of self-awareness. People don't realize that they like to punish. Right. Or they like to just be honest about what you like and what you're really doing.
Right. Yeah. Being right feels good. But then you can also be wrong. Then you can be right, and then you can be wrong. That's just, that's how it goes.
We bat about 500. I'm wrong a lot of the times. I'm wrong. I make mistakes. But everyone thinks they have the perfect balance. And no, I mean, you evolve as a person. And you think differently when you're 40 than you do when you're 20.
Sure.
If you don't, you're an idiot.
You never know what you would be like I always think of, I don't know what I would be like if I was born into a different situation. If I was like a straight, what I have no idea what I would be like. I'd probably be the worst, to be totally honest. Like I would have been so privileged if I was a straight penis man, because my family was upper middle class growing up. So I just would have been like, who knows what I would have been like. Or maybe I would have been great. Maybe I would have been better than I am now. I don't know. I have no idea.
And you don't even think, it's funny, as a white guy, like you don't think of, it does exist though. And like I resisted the idea at first because when I first heard it, you feel like it's an attack. And
absolutely.
Like, I got to defend the team.
Totally. Right.
And yet it comes.
Then you look around at the team and you're like, ooh, I don't want to be with these fucking people.
Yeah, some of this team is wrong.
Yeah.
And I hear some of the team talking and I don't agree. But what really convinced me, and I couldn't look past it, was every black guy I know, like comedians and just guys who are just people I've known for every one of them has been scared of the police. Every one of them has had some type of an interaction where, and I know these guys. I mean, I know what they're like, and they're not criminals. Every one of them has had the same experience of being afraid when they got pulled over or like fear for their safety.
Sure.
I've never had that. I've never once have I been afraid of being hurt by a cop. So I'm like, the fact that all of these guys are independently telling me something, I can't, there's something there. There's something I have that they don't have, that I didn't ask for. And I'm not trying to use to my advantage, but I can't be stupid enough to once again defend the team and pretend that doesn't exist. It does. It's there. Right.
Yeah, I would look back on times where I called the cops I had a house party. I called the cops to help me get people out. I always thought cops were great until you listen to other people talk about it.
Yeah, and then you listen to it, and it's so funny that we again, everything is so right, wrong, black, white, Republican, Democrat. Like people don't think that you can support Black Lives Matter and be against defunding the police. Like you can have both opinions.
Right, absolutely.
They're not mutually exclusive, but everything is mutually exclusive.
And have had great experiences with police or what that can be, because that's a real complicated one. But yeah, that's a complicated one.
But everything is a seesaw. Every discussion,
stock market, everything.
You're right. Right is up here and wrong is down here. So what happens is if you make a point, oh shit, I lose a point. Nobody realizes that you can just kind of balance in the middle. It's plus it's information being thrown at us. Like never in human history have we had information hurled at us the way we have in the last decade. So we're trying to grapple with it.
How do you argue in relationships?
I'm better now than I ever was.
That's good because
it's
tough.
Ferocious. Yeah, it's very hard. I was ferocious.
Where you would come at them in the argument?
Yeah, I mean, verbally, never physically, but verbally, yeah, sure. But then I realized the ugliness in that was that I was addicted to the adrenaline of fighting.
Oh yeah, drunk on it. I had this sponsor, Peter. He said you can get drunk on anger, and when he said that, I went, oh God. And then I started holding myself accountable. I go, or drunk on rage. And I was like, yeah, especially if you get some quote unquote justifiable anger and then you just get to fuck it. Someone lies to you and you figure it out. And then I wouldn't want to approach it right away. I'd want to catch him in another thing so I could be so wronged and then just go get belligerent.
Yes, you get addicted to feeling wounded. And when they say emotional hangover, I would get those the next day.
Yeah.
And when I was like, oh my God, like, I feel shitty because I was so angry.
Yeah.
And I have to acknowledge that about myself. I like to fight. I like to, like, I had a debate with a woman who I actually liked, Lindy West. She was a feminist, and we debated on W. Kamau Bell's show about rape jokes. She was totally against them, and I felt that you should be able to joke about anything. And we talked about it.
You put yourself in that situation to debate with her. I mean, good.
Oh,
for
yeah.
You. Yeah. Good
yeah. It was a civil, there was a short version on TV, and then there was like a 14-minute version online. But the key was don't get angry. Don't, because she's not the problem. She's a person who's representing a point of view. I'm a person representing a point of view that a lot of people have. So if I'm angry and yell at this one person, I'm not doing anything like they're just one person that has that opinion. There's a million people.
Right.
To debate that opinion, what are you gonna do? Yell and scream at all those people? You just got to kind of calmly go through.
That would have been real bad if you yelled and screamed and the rape joke, arguing.
It wasn't even my joke. It wasn't even my joke. It was somebody else's joke. But they asked me to come on and debate the idea of it, and I was happy to, because I'll always say that anything that you can do a film about or a book about, you can do a joke about. It's literally all of it is on the table, and that keeps things very simple.
Right.
The rules are the same for everybody. Patrice said it really well. He said a bad joke is birthed from the same place as a good joke. They both come from the same place. One hits, one misses. One is tasteful, one isn't. One does what it's supposed to do, and one doesn't do what it's intended to do. But they come from the same place.
That's interesting.
Yeah, it was good. A good way he said that. But yeah, I feel that anything is on the table when it comes to being made fun of. Any subject. There are no subjects that are excluded just by the nature of them being that subject.
Right. And then people have to be aware that, and then someone does say something, there can be pushback on it, but there's going to be evolution of it too. And be careful. I was at the Village Underground once, and someone even had a joke where they just said the word roofie, and this woman jumped up and just started screaming. Obviously, it had triggered something in her. She was so upset. She was like, "Don't talk about that." I mean, she didn't. It wasn't the person that joked about them taking the roofie from someone else, so they had it. And then the woman was like, she flipped out, and then she went outside, and it was like, that's the most intense I've ever seen someone react to someone saying a joke.
Right, and what the lesson that we teach people is that public tantrums. Yes, you should. Your feelings are more important than anybody else in the room. These are the same mentality of people who will destroy things that they feel disrespect Christ. Or, the people, it's radical thinking where if I don't like it, you cannot enjoy it.
Right.
So they are the same people. Like, do these people go to a film and jump up and slash the screen when they don't like what's being done? Or do they just quietly leave?
Right. I was thinking that same too when I was watching this, because I was like, oh my God. And then she got up and she left, and then she came back down and said something again, and then was really taking up all the space. And I was just like, would she have done this in any other context? So if a restaurant hated the food and reacted that way, would have been, the absurdity of it would have been very highlighted.
And I never understood the idea of pushback. I know people do it, but I never understood the desire to push back when people make fun of something. Like, I never understood I guess because my whole life I've made fun of everything, even things that have hurt me, or my own suicide attempts, or fucking sucking dicks. Like, all of it I've mocked. So to me, it's all on the table. I never understood wanting somebody penalized for making fun of something I object to. Who gives a fuck who cares? It's not my business.
It's an impulse thing too, because it's like it's like an impulse control. I wonder if the fact that you went to rehab at such a young age helped line you up to have a more balanced thought process on, because I mean, you went to rehab at 18?
17.
So that's very young. And was it a good rehab? Like, do you feel like they gave you tools there?
They ruined the drinking. I drank in the rehab and for a year after, but they ruined it for me, and I came back at 18. I think one reason that I try to have a balanced thought is because, like everybody else, I like winning. Yes. I like winning an argument too. But I found that the most effective way to give yourself a chance to win, or at least not lose and look like a total asshole, is to really try to hear what a person is telling you and then combat what they're telling you it's the same thing that makes people good actors. It's, no actor has ever said best thing to do is just fire out your line.
Right.
No. Don't even pay attention. Their mouth stops moving. Fire it out.
Right. Go, go, go. Yeah.
It's always react to what they're saying and to what they're giving you. So, this is how you know that it's a sickness people have. No matter how many talking head shows you watch, you never hear someone go, you know what? You're right. I hadn't thought of that. When's the last time anybody on Fox, CNN, MSNBC, when's the last time one person said that?
Could you imagine if Tucker Carlson or any of the CNN guys said that? It would be like, I would start clicking I would think there was a problem with the TV. If Don Lemon I could see maybe Don Lemon, but if one of them said like, that's a really good point. I've changed my way of thinking. They'd probably be off there actually, because being less divisive might be seen as being less entertaining.
And it will also see as just losing and being weak.
Right.
I think it's simply about, because they don't look at them. Nobody looks at themselves as divisive. Nobody looks at them. We all look at ourselves as people who are reacting to irrational situations and craziness.
Right.
I'm right. So nobody ever says I'm divisive. People say I want to win.
Right.
And if I don't win, I'm weak. And the only person I've really seen do it once was Ben Shapiro, who very conservative thinking guy, but he was debating with some guy in England or doing his talk show. And I think that he thought this, from what I could tell, thought this British guy was coming from a place that he wasn't. And the British guy, I thought, came out looking much better than Ben Shapiro. Ben Shapiro went on after, like he did some Twitter and said, whatever the guy's name was, 1, Shapiro 0. He was right. I think he just acknowledged what happened as opposed to trying to fix it in post. Right. And I respected that. I'm like, yeah, he's a smart guy. He's got his opinions.
Makes it much more credible too. You're like, all right, I'm going to listen to you the next time. Then, makes it more thought out. Yeah.
It's something that I try not to let affect me as much anymore. I try not to jump on these things, but I'm never going to change it. Like,
right.
Obama said something really smart recently. He was talking about the culture of shaming and cancel. And he said something like, we can't look for such purity in people because no one will stand up. And I'm paraphrasing, but he was basically saying the purity of people, we're not going to find people who are totally pure.
Oh, yeah, no fucking things. And the more pure they seem, then the more, if it all seems 100% pure, the alarm bells start going off. I mean, then they're into some really fucked up shit. I mean, almost always. That's why the spiritual leaders that are like such an extreme where they sequester you off, they've got dead animals that they're like eating for breakfast. I mean, we're all eating dead. That's a bad example, but they're just doing crazy shit.
Yeah, and searching for the purity or demanding that a person in public life have nothing that they've said or done or it's not realistic. And he said that really well. And nothing changed. Chappelle said it really well in a special where he said, where the point was, he said, who am I? And then it was something like, you've done something and I want to ruin your life. And then the punchline was, I'm you. And he was, that's the audience.
Right.
You are the worst motherfucker.
Right.
It was really funny and such a smart way to get to it. And nothing changed.
Right.
So these two bright guys.
The seed was planted. So then that seed's planted and someone else given the information, it could maybe build something somehow.
I hope so.
Yeah.
But when I see stuff like that, especially what Obama said about purity.
Yeah, I have him on Google Alerts and I've never even seen. Was it that was a speech he gave?
Yeah, I think he was talking to students. And again, I'm totally paraphrasing what he said, but the idea of finding people who are pure and have no sin or whatever. And I felt like if that didn't stop anything, nothing I say is going to. So it takes the pressure off me having to, I'm not going to stop it. Like, why the fuck should I get angry on Twitter and go back and fuck. I don't give a fuck. Don't agree with me. So what?
Right.
Have more faith in your opinion if I don't agree with you.
Yeah, I always say that about people that push religion. I'm like, shouldn't the principle of faith be that I'll find it on my own? I am pretty spiritual, I would say. Are you spiritual or are you an atheist?
No, I try to be, I've gone away from it for a long time. And I wish I was better at it. I wish I was better because I'm so fucking, it's a process, but when I don't get what I want, I tend to rebel against the idea of a God, but I don't know where I'm at with it. I've struggled with it a lot. Yeah,
sometimes I'll try to turn it over, but it is a process. Where can people find you online? And how can they vote for you on the TBS show?
When does this air?
I'll based on when the TBS thing is, I'll bump it up so it can come out sooner.
That's okay. It comes out. TBS is this Sunday.
Okay.
So they go to TBS. It's a ridiculous Chip video, and hopefully he'll be there again next week. But I don't know how I'm going to do this week. So or just go to again. I'm not on Twitter that much. And Chip has a Patreon and people like it, and just JImNorton.com for performance dates. But I don't. Oh, and I do a show with Sam Roberts in the morning on SiriusXM 4 days a week. I forgot about, and a UFC Unfiltered podcast. So yeah, any of those places.
Those things too. Well, thank you so much for doing the show. I appreciate it.
Oh, I'm happy to do it. I will talk to you soon, Emma.
Absolutely.